I'll be right there in a second.
All right.
Hello?
Hello. How you doing?
Um,
Uh, you do realize your Yuzu emulator's been open for a day, right?
hello?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear
Okay,
you.
I can
Yeah.
hear you now.
Yeah. Your Yuzu emulator's been open for a day, right?
Yeah, it's running on a different computer.
Well, whatever it is, it's hooked up to your Discord because it's like 22 hours and 30 minutes elapsed. I'm like, God damn, dude. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's on a different computer. I have another computer I use as an arcade machine for like emulators and stuff like that.
Oh,
To
that's
store
good.
all my emulation stuff.
Cause
Yeah.
it was a little like, oh, this person, you know, maybe he passed up the computer. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh God. It's like I was a little worried. I was like, oh, I hope this guy doesn't have health issues. That'd be terrible. Anyway,
I've
uh,
actually I've actually got a lot of health issues under control ever since I started working out.
okay, so we're live right now. So
All right.
here's the thing. Okay, so welcome to BS Busters. We're live. Where everyone's good. Uh, we're tonight's cast is going to be quick. I don't think we're going to go too long. The title of the cast is "If Wishes." Sorry, it's called "When Wishes Go Wrong." All right, and the reason I say this, this is the title of the cast, is because we've all had something come out, and it's like, oh man, that could have gone so much better.
Yeah.
You know. So let's get to it. Let's get to when wishes go wrong. So first little bit of news I thought that would be kind of interesting to cover is well I'll do the this is from one of the major ups in at Square Enix. I'll be right back. I had the article. I was gonna send it to my Discord, but I overslept, so I'll be right back. But basically, there's gonna be a possible Chrono Trigger remake. I'll be right back.
Oh.
Hey, talk about that, sir.
Uh, need to leave that. They need to leave that game alone. Chrono Trigger doesn't need to be remade, especially under the current Square Enix regime. Um, like if they give it, if they give it to the people who have been doing the HD 2D remake stuff, that'll be great because they've been doing good work with the 2D remakes, especially when it comes to voice acting. I don't know who the heck their voice director is, but man, they're pretty good. Um, which is you know, which is thing to say because a lot of anime games that come out with the English voice acting can be a little stale. They're not always terrible, but you know they're typically serviceable. But at least what I've played from the first Octopath Traveler, they were the voice actors were on it for the most part.
Yeah, sadly, the studio that made that game got bought out by some other company. They no longer work for Square Enix.
Well, then leave Chrono Trigger alone then.
Yeah, yeah, you're like, it would be cool if they remade Chrono Trigger. So here's my idea. Wait a second. Let me go to Gmail because I just sent it to myself and put it in the Discord. Here's my idea. I'm gonna say something that's gonna blow people's minds. Fortify your mind. Doctor Strange. Shit. I thought I said it to myself. What? Let's see here. Oh, here it is. So basically, let me put this in the chat. There we go. Yes, I know. All right, so Square Enix interested to know how fans would like Chrono Trigger to be remade. Chrono Trigger director Yoshinori Kitase recently took part in the My Perfect Console podcast and asked how fans would like to see the classic RPG remade. There is obviously many different approaches Square Enix could take, but Kitase was curious how they would best deliver. The three routes Katase discussed in the podcast was a port, a graphical remaster, alternately a remake in the vein of the successful but expensive Final Fantasy VII remake. The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening remake for the Nintendo Switch was brought up with the host, and Katase said that it was a job well done. Katase is currently busy with the Final Fantasy VII remake trilogy, but hopefully one day he can get around to bringing the original Chrono Trigger back to life. Okay, I disagree with all those. I don't think it should just be a port because let's keep it real. Most of the ports of Chrono Trigger have been shit from Square Enix. Like, it took years for them to make the port of Chrono Trigger on Steam and the PS4 and the PS5 close to what it was on PC. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, close to what it was to the original release. Even the port back in the day of Chrono Trigger to the PS2, I mean the original PlayStation that's an inferior port to the console, to the original SNES version. And I know some people say, "Well, Chrono Trigger DS, fuck that game," because they try to connect that game to Chrono Cross, and Chrono Cross is the inferior game in that series.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, hey, let's connect. It's the reason why I hope Nintendo never tries to connect the WarioWare series with the Wario 2D games. Like Wario Land, Wario Land 2, Wario Land 3, Wario Land 4, Super Wario, Wario World, stuff like that. I don't ever want the WarioWare, because the WarioWare games are inferior games. Like, they're a collection of mini games, whereas the Wario Land games are legit games. But you know, so and as far as a graphical remaster goes, they would kind of fuck that up. The graphical remasters they've done of Legend of Secret of Mana was not great. Or Seiken Densetsu 3 Legend of Mana, that wasn't great either. Or they could go the expensive fucking Final Fantasy VII remake, which is, I mean, they turned a game that was one game into a trilogy, and they changed the storyline, which changes the story of the original game.
Yeah.
It's not very well. It's not a well done. It's kind of trash in my opinion. So here's my idea for a Chrono Trigger remake. I would say remake it. Do a cross between a graphical remaster and Final Fantasy VII remake. But here's what I would do. I would take Chrono Trigger and remake it in the vein of Dragon Quest VIII in terms of graphics. A 3D world, cel shaded characters.
Yeah.
That could work.
Yeah.
You know? And if that game does well, you could do a direct sequel to Chrono Trigger. Same engine. 3D world, 2D characters.
Yeah.
Dragon Quest VIII style. Because I mean, the art style was originally done by Akira Toriyama's Armorbird Studios, which they do Dragon Ball Z, which is why you play Dragon Quest VIII and Dragon Quest IX, and you're like, wow, these characters look like Dragon Ball Z characters
Yeah.
because it was done by the Dragon Ball Z studio. So, or Dragon Ball Studios, whatever. So that's what I would do. I wouldn't do the shit where they like break it into three different games because of money reasons. Just take that engine and make it into Final Fantasy, into a Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
Proof of concept would be the first game. Maybe release a demo where it's like the Millennial Fair and then lean, not Marl, yeah, Marl. Like you have the Millennial Fair, and then Marl loses. Like you have the little activities you can do, and then Marl, like the demo, the vertical slice demo would be the Millennial Fair, the opening, the Millennial Fair, going back in time, rescuing Marl, uh, like saving the real Queen Lean, and then basically you getting thrown in jail. That's the demo.
Yeah.
There you go. That would be the perfect way to redo that game. Cause and here's the thing, I wouldn't mind them adding, like, unlike Final Fantasy VII, which is like they're adding shit that wasn't in the game. They could add shit to Final Fantasy to Chrono Trigger, a remake where they could build up Chrono's hometown so that there's like more buildings and more citizens. They could build up the city in the south where you can like get better weapons if you take the ferry down there. They could build up like little like traveling salesmen on the bridge between the two continents. Uh, like you could do some shit to really make Chrono Trigger even more special than it was before. Um,
Yeah.
that's my idea. That's agree, disagree. Do you have any alternates? Anything you would add that I'm probably missing because reasons?
No, no, I'd agree with that. For the most part.
All right. Okay. Um. So yeah. Uh. So do you have any RPGs you're like, man, they really need to bring that shit back. Like if they remade that, it would be amazing.
Um, well, with some of these companies the way they are, I
You
don't
don't
know if I
trust it.
would want.
It's
Yeah, I don't trust it.
like he's evil. I don't trust it.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust it at this point.
Uh, well, for me, like I said, I would love a I already said how I could totally see I could totally see, I laid out because I put a lot of thought into how they could remake um a Chrono Trigger remake Chrono Trigger because it Chrono Trigger is one of my favorite RPGs of all time.
Yeah.
Hands down, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I don't like you know, I really do consider it to be one of the best games ever made. So, you know, uh, whatever. So, yeah, yeah, that's. I guess we can move on to the next next topic. Um, where are we going? Um, okay, so we're gonna go. What was originally gonna be the first one? Madam Web. I went to go see that movie. I got paid $50 to write a review for it. It was pretty goddamn bad.
Yeah,
Um,
I figure it's gonna be bad.
yeah, the only reason I would advise someone to go see this movie is if you have some friends that you guys like watching bad movies, and then like after the movie, you guys go to a nice restaurant and you get a table and you guys sit there and talk shit about the movie, roasting it, then yeah, you go watch Madam Web. But like spending your own money to watch this piece of shit, no, no. Madam Web is yet again Sony trying to desperately Sony basically trying to desperately grow the superhero crowd by appealing to people who don't really give a fuck about superheroes or and don't give a fuck about the superheroes that they're trying to push forward. Like even fans of Spider-Man are like, "Oh, Cassandra Cain." They don't give a fuck about Cassandra Cain.
Yeah.
Like as soon as they said Madam Web, I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." And they're like, "We're casting Dakota Johnson as Madam Web." I'm like, "Isn't she a little too young to be playing Madam Web?" Because Madam Web, like, her big thing is that she's a psychic who tangentially is related to the spider. Like she got her psychic abilities from a spider bite, and so basically like or like she was bestowed the totemic powers of like the ancestral spider totem, some shit like that. And so she's basically she's one of those side characters who exists solely because they could connect her to Spider-Man in the comics. Okay, in the
Yeah.
comics.
Yeah.
Her most the
So
people
she's
who
kind of a. So she's a plot device, essentially.
yeah. I mean, like, okay, let me put it this way. It's kind of like you don't have Supergirl without Superman.
Yeah.
Same thing with Cassandra Cain, Madam Web. Like, if Spider-Man didn't exist, you wouldn't have Madam Web. She's a side character who exists solely to push his stories forward.
Yeah.
Um, and so basically to say we're gonna build a new series appealing to women with Madam Web, I'm like, I don't think that's gonna work.
What was
No,
that?
I said I don't think that's gonna work. When they announced it, I was like, yeah, this shit ain't gonna work. This, yeah, I knew when they announced this shit that I was like, yeah, this is not going to work. This is gonna fail, and it
Yeah.
did. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and here's the thing:
Yeah.
I
That's.
don't want shit. I don't want movies to fail because when comic book movies fail, then people they stop taking chances on other comic book properties that do need movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. But who made this one? Sony?
Yeah. Like the media is like, oh man, this is it's a shame that Marvel. It's like this is not Marvel, dude. This is look, this is Sony. It's like when Fox would make a X-Men movie, like, well, Marvel's fucking. It's like, wait, that's not us. That's Fox. Fuck you. That's Fox.
Yeah.
It's like they don't seem to realize that like and this shit was put through by Sony. Marvel had nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
You know, it's like someone coming up to you and say, "Hey man, you need to talk. You need to talk to your cousin." It's like I have nothing. I can't control what that motherfucker does. Hey bro, your cousin, he's fucking up. It's like I have. Why do you think it was me? you know. And that's where I kind of have the problem because people are just like, "Oh my god, it's how could they do this?" I'm like, they didn't have shit to do with this. Legit, they had nothing to do with this. Like, why are you trying to? Why are you trying to blame them? You know. Um, so, do you have any questions about the film? Anything you're like, "Hey, I can't. This is surprising."
Um, no, I just remember seeing a trailer in the another Discord server that I'm in, and people were not thrilled about what they were seeing.
What, they ripped it a new one? They're like, "This is some bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
This is
It's like,
some."
why does this even exist?
Yeah, yeah.
Why
Who
are
was
we even here?
asking for this? Who was asking for this? Please tell me. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's pretty goddamn bad. It's one of the, it's pretty bad. It is not good.
Yeah.
Um, you know, like, here's the thing. I don't want movies to fail unless they are complete piles of bullshit.
Yeah.
Now, if something's a complete and total pile of bullshit, then I'm like, okay, this has to die. Like Morbius. uh, guess who the writer and the writer of this film, the writers of this of Madam Web were, by the way.
Who were they?
Same people who made Morbius.
Oh,
Yeah. So this was kind of doomed from the start, really. It wasn't. It was kind of fucked from the start, really. To be honest with you, it's so anyway. So yeah, I it was when that happened. I was just like, well, fuck this. I got nothing. Um,
yeah.
because there's no reason to watch it. Because why?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
I mean, had I not been paid to watch this, I would have been like, this is not worth it. But because I got money to watch it, I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it. But only because I'm being paid to.
Yeah.
You know, like, I wouldn't go to a theater to watch this movie. Um, you know, and the thing that hurts the most about this film is that the main villain, Ezekiel Sims, is a major character in a relatively good Spider-Man storyline. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's basically the character in the storyline where Moreland the Hunter. Moreland the Hunter is this guy who goes around hunting down the animal totems of different like shamanistic uh, cultures and devouring them. And so he's killed and devoured the totem of the crocodiles, the totem of the rhinoceros, the totem of the monkey, and it's implied that like Spider-Man is just the latest in a long line of like Peter Parker is just the latest in a long line of Spider-Men just over years and years who keep on getting hunted down by this fucking Moreland the Hunter. So Spider-Man basically, yeah, Ezekiel Sims initially is like, well, I'm going to mentor you. You know, you're not the only one with spider abilities. But then he's like, well, actually, I'm going to lock you in this mansion so that if you're here, he'll come after your ass and he won't kill me. But he later later on, he basically he's like, my conscience, I can't let that young man die, and he goes back and lets him out. But by that time, Moreland's already there, and he attacks Ezekiel Sims. Ezekiel Sims is like the Obi-Wan Kenobi because he actually teaches Spider-Man how to use his abilities to a higher level. Because most of Spider-Man's abilities are like self-taught shit that he just kind of picked up over the years. Um, so yeah, man, it's one of those things where it's like, wow, this is a really interesting character that y'all just fucked up for this bullshit right here. Why would you do that? But it's Sony. Sony don't care.
Yeah.
Sony don't care.
I mean, that's Sony for you. Like,
Hey,
just,
yeah, we don't care.
yeah, we laid off 900 employees, and to add insult to injury, we're going to visit one of the studios that we're about to lay off and have a grand old time, and then tell all those people that they're not going to have a job tomorrow.
Yeah,
Sounds like a fantastic, yeah. Sony, guys, Sony.
Sony.
PlayStation always wins, guy.
Yeah, guys. Yeah,
Always win.
Sony is the way to go, folks. Sony is the best. Sony is love. Sony is life. Of course, if you can't tell, we're being facetious.
Yeah.
We're being completely and totally facetious. But, what do I know? I'm just some guy. Anyway, do you have any movies that you can think of that you were like, oh, I knew this was going to be some bullshit. And when it came out, you're like, I called it.
Uh, there's the most recent one. Star Wars Episode 3, or Star Wars Episode, the last Star Wars movie.
Oh,
Like, this
the
was gonna be some bullshit. And it was some bullshit.
Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, this is not gonna work because there's no way you can't have a Rise of Skywalker because you killed all the Skywalkers off. Unless you're gonna try and redeem Kylo Ren, but this dude killed his father and tried to kill his mother. There's no redemption for that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But hey, what do I know? I'm just some guy. Um, but to each his own. Um, so with that being said, I guess we can move on to the next topic. When getting what you want isn't good. So this is just a little thing that I saw where it's like 5 things you always think are going to be amazing in games, but never are. And I'm going to announce to it. I'm going to announce the thing, and you're going to give your thoughts, and then I'm going to read the what the writer of the article says. Okay, that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. The first thing that you always think is going to be amazing games, but never is evil choices.
Evil choices, huh?
Evil choices in video games, yeah. To be honest with you, I've only seen evil choices done well in like one video game. One.
What's that?
Fallout New Vegas. Well, actually, any of the Fallout games made by the original people. That's the only game
Yeah.
where I've been like, oh, yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Every other game that I've seen that has like, oh my god, you can be evil. The evil choices are like, this isn't really that bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's not good, but it's not bad either.
Yeah.
You know. So when I see people go like, "Oh my god, this is terrible," blah blah blah, this happened, I'm like, it's not that bad. Calm the fuck down. Stop being a bitch. You know.
Yeah.
And when they do let you be evil, like either the evil is so nuanced that it's like there's no nuance to the evil. Like it's like you can either make the good choice or a choice that's so evil that it's like, god damn, that's like I remember playing the game Overlord and its sequel Overlord 2. And in the original Overlord, like you could choose to be good or you could choose to be evil. And your good choices were like your little helper slash man Friday would be like, well, you know, I guess you understand that if you don't kill everyone right now, they can give you more gold later and shit like that. But you were just choosing the good thing. Overlord 2, even when you chose quote unquote like you could either be evil or more evil. There was no like side option for anything else. And it was like this is this is trash.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's my own personal opinion. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Uh, not really. I usually typically play the dark side games.
Really?
You want to play it? Typically, typically not, just because when you're playing something. At least for me, it's like you want the best ending possible.
Ah, okay.
But I can see how sometimes it's just evil choices
What I
there
unveil today.
just to pad out replayability and stuff.
All right.
What would really be interesting if your so-called good choices led to a bad ending, and your so-called a certain bad choices led to actually the proper ending.
They did
But
that. It was in
what?
Fable 3.
Oh,
Yeah, Fable 3, basically, in Fable 3, you play the prince, like one of two princes of this kingdom. And your brother is bankrupting the kingdom. Now you find out later on that the reason your brother is doing this is because he found out that he went to this place and he was exposed to this entity, this evil entity that said, well, "I'm coming to your kingdom in 20 years, um, and I'm gonna wreck your shit." And so basically, he didn't want to panic the people, so he implements these draconian policies and that are like borderline tyrannical. Well, not borderline; they are tyrannical. But it's because he's trying to save the kingdom. You don't know this. You think your brother's just being a piece of shit. So you go into exile, and you basically like you go and you fucking like overthrow him and take everything over. I mean, it's really got a lot of shit going on. I actually like that game a lot,
yeah, yeah,
but like a lot of people didn't like it, but because at the end of the game, essentially speaking, if you're playing this the way you're supposed to, in order to get enough money, in order to fortify the kingdom against what's coming, you have to implement these draconian practices that your brother was doing in order to basically save everyone. Or you could do the cheat method, which I did, which is in the last like part of the game before the actual event goes on. If you don't move the time period forward for the actual major fight, you can basically get all your properties to build up enough money to do it without having to make everyone die or like make everyone's life miserable. So you can technically do the good thing and get the good ending, but if you do like the caring, I'm gonna save everyone ending, it just get it like you get the shittiest actions in order to get the quote unquote good ending. You get the worst ending. You actually have to make terrible sacrifices in order to save the kingdom. Uh, if you play it the way it was designed. However, this is a video game. There's always ways to cheese your way through
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in RPGs, if you're patient enough and clever enough, you can always find a way to exploit the system.
Yeah. You know, please understand there is always a way.
But yeah, that actually sounds really interesting. Yeah, I remember people just shitting all over that game for years. um, Not entirely sure why. I guess it just
Because the ending is very like because at the end of the game, if they played the game they were quote unquote meant to play it, you get a shitty ending.
yeah.
If you play the game as an asshole, you get a good ending. Or you could cheese it, but people didn't know that at the beginning. Um, Personally speaking, I think Fable 3 mechanically is the best game in the series. Fable 1 is janky as fuck.
It feels janky. I played a little bit of it. Like even like the first like part of it felt janky.
It's janky. I mean, there's some good ideas in there, but it's janky as fuck. Fable 2 is a step in the right direction. It's leagues above the first game, but it ends abruptly because they ran out of money and they had to end it. So it ends with your character getting murdered, and the Lord, I forget the guy's name, the guy who's basically been killing heroes and absorbing their life energy, their heroic essence in order to stay young, Lord Weaver. He does it to you and shoots your ass and throws you out of a window. It's like what the fuck, and the game just
Yeah.
ends. Like it just ends. If you play Fable 3, Lord Weaver is still in the game, and I'm like, I should be able to kill this motherfucker because he killed my predecessor. But you can't. You can't. Uh,
Um,
yeah, you can't. Although you can basically fuck up his business where he loses his factory and just destroy everything he built. I'm like, well, that's payback for all those people you killed, you piece of shit. Um, but yeah. So what I'm saying is that there are games where there's evil choices, but
that'd be interesting. I just kind of like another example. It's not an RPG, but I mean, uh, Bastion, where the good ending is actually the bad ending because it just restarts the cycle, and everybody learns nothing from the calamity. The bad ending is the good ending because it gives the the last survivors a chance to rebuild and learn from the calamity and learn not to make the same mistakes again. Essentially, essentially is how that works.
yeah, they kind of did the same thing in what game was it? Mass Effect 3. Like
Yeah.
the good ending is you essentially
Doesn't both endings involve you sacrificing your character ultimately?
kind of. Well, initially there was the blue ending and the red ending. The red ending is Shepard decides to you realize that the reason that the Reapers keep on coming back is because all of the faster than light infrastructure that enables your civilizations to thrive is built on technology created by the predecessors to the Reapers. Whoever created the Reapers created the Mass Effect gates. So you basically destroy the Mass Effect network. So the later people, whoever comes behind you, is going to have to figure out their own FTL,
Yeah.
their own technology to go faster than light. Uh, or you could choose to synthesis, where essentially organic life and uh, which is the blue ending, organic life and mechanical life, cybernetic life, fuse together into this amalgamation. it's basically you become assimilated by the Reapers, but you also stop
Yeah.
their kill code, so they stop murdering people. Um, I mean, look, man. And then they changed it later on, where there's like, well, I'm like, look, listen, if you have to go back and change the ending of your game, your ending sucked.
Yeah.
What the ending of Mass Effect 3 should have been was what it was hinting to in Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2 is that the realization you realize in Mass Effect 1 is okay, basically the only way you could take down Sovereign in the first game is by the best way to do it, the Paragon way of doing it was to essentially instead of sacrificing the Turian fleet, which is the Renegade ending, the Paragon is that you get the human fleet, the Turian fleet, like all these different. Everyone contributes in order to take down Sovereign, and because everyone contributes, there's sacrifices, but it's less sacrifices, and you show what when they're unified it can do. Mass Effect 2 is you're getting a team together from different people from different aspects coming together to take on this other Reaper. Mass Effect 3 should have been Shepard going to these different races and then finally putting their shit aside and banding together to take on the Reapers. And instead it turned into some bullshit.
Yeah.
There was a dude we used to be on a podcast with who's like, well, it's because the ending leaked. Bullshit. They never had an idea for a better ending of that game. And they were in a rush to finish it, and so they just went with what was easiest for them.
Yeah.
But what
I
are you?
mean, there was only like two writers, and they didn't really have much of an editor, so it wasn't. It was very isolated. The writing.
I don't know about that. What I do
So
know is I just don't have any information about it. But what I do know is holy shit, the ending of that game was god awful. Like when you have an RPG, if the story is so bad, that you have to fix the ending, your game's story wasn't that good.
yeah.
Like I hate to break this to you people, but you shouldn't have to if you have to rewrite the ending of your shit, your ending wasn't very good in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I know that's hard for some people to understand and they get mad about it, but that's the way it is. Okay? All right? But that's just my opinion. Do you have any thoughts before we move
Uh,
on to the next bit?
no, no, I don't have any. I
The
don't have any
next
more thoughts on that.
all right. Next one. So basically, here's what this person says. You can never really truly predict which games will be a hit and which won't. But there are certain tropes I've learned to be very wary of whenever they're touted in pre-release marketing. These are the concepts that will never stop sounding exciting and fun, but almost never deliver. Usually because there's something about them that simply clashes with the realities of game development. They're so cool in theory that the industry can't resist coming back to them again and again, no matter how many times they disappoint. As a player, it's easy to buy into the dream each time. That's why you need to be a cynic like me around to the point why these like me around to point out why these things never work. To be clear, none of these tropes necessarily doom a game entirely, especially if they're only one part of the overall offering. Some games succeed despite a few elements that didn't quite fulfill their promises, and a rare few find a way to make them work despite the odds. There are plenty of good games out there that include one or more of these tropes. It's just that the trope itself is almost always a folly. The dream dialogue options, and moral choices that will let you play as a dastardly bad guy, particularly seen in RPGs such as Dragon Age or Owlcat's Pathfinder games. This trope draws on our love for narrative freedom and agency, as well as the transgressive thrill of not having to be the goody two-shoes for once. The reality, the evil choices will mostly be a cartoonishly malevolent and often pointlessly self-destructive. Instead of saving the orphanage, you burn it down. Instead of making friends, you murder people for not giving you good enough quest rewards. Stick to the evil path and you'll just be playing an erratic psychopath, not a Machiavellian villain. Even when evil choices are handled with more nuance, such as in Baldur's Gate 3, the dark path is often underdeveloped with less complete story moments. In games with companions, chances are the best ones will tut over your choices and eventually leave you, forcing you to hang out with only one or two designated evil party members. The explanation, there's a few different things going on here. Partly, it's a resource issue. It's always going to be difficult to accommodate branching paths in a game, and particularly ones that let you act in a morally totally opposite way. So naturally, developers focus their efforts on the paths players are vastly more likely to take. A bit of a self fulfilling prophecy, perhaps. Maybe part of the reason evil choices are niche is because people are sick of how half-baked they always are, but it's a hard one to break out of. Beyond that, it's difficult. It's simply difficult to build a compelling story around an evil protagonist, especially when they have to hit all the same major story beats as a good character. Why is this bastard who's only out for themselves bothering to help save the world in the first place? Evil choices often feel senseless or out of place simply because the main character being evil is senseless and out of place, and the kind of story the majority of big budget games, particularly RPGs, want to tell. Um, yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that. Like the only games that I've played where playing the evil route wasn't like it was evil, but you could kind of understand was Fallout New Vegas and Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the other ones of like, oh, I'm evil. Why? Because I am. Hey, that kid, that innocent orphan kid whose parents were murdered by creatures, I'm going to sell him into slavery. Why? Because I'm evil. It's like, but he's just kind of a piece of shit at this point. Um, Honorable exception, Obsidian's Overlook Jim Tyranny flips the usual dynamic on its head, casting you as a leader in the Dark Overlord's army, surrounded by oppression and injustice. The whole game is built around wrestling with the idea of what it means to be evil, and how sometimes a seemingly cruel decision can nonetheless be the right one. Yeah, Tyranny did it well too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next, thing that you think is going to be amazing in a game but never is. Mutation, Year Zero. The Dream, Mutation. The Dream, you'll get to change your character as you play with strange and exciting mutations. You might be transforming a single hero or squad bit by bit, as in Biomutant or Mutant Year Zero, Road to Eden, or guiding the evolution of a species as in Spore, the classic Creature series. Either way, the fantasy is that you'll get to mold in-game characters into weird and wonderful new forms with endless possibilities by mixing and matching. For mixing and matching. Changing both how they behave and how they look to a combo unique to you. The reality, the possibilities will turn out to be rather more limited than you hope. The mutations may have disappointingly few visual variations or not be represented visually at all mechanically. At all. Mechanically, they'll probably manifest as relatively simple bonuses from a relatively small pool of effects, rather than being a sea of game-changing abilities. Your capacity to mutate will usually be limited in some stringent way, perhaps by a finite pool of points or a set number of slots, which are each limited to certain types of mutations. One way or another, you will not be able to become the eldritch horror of your dreams. The explanation, it's just resource. They don't have the thing. The honorable exception is the Binding of Isaac, where you essentially can become a little mutant child.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are there any games that have mutation where you're like, oh, this is actually kind of cool?
Mutation.
Yeah. Like
The
where you can mutate and it's like, oh, this actually works. I actually like the concept of you mutating while you're fighting.
there's a form you take in prototype though. The first prototype though is pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
As you progress through the game. Uh, that game was good, cathartic fun.
Oh yeah.
It's
Uh
it's a
No, go ahead.
It, it was made by the same people who made Hulk Ultimate Destruction, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. I was about to say, yeah. The thing that I liked about that game was just playing it. I'm like, oh, this game, like playing it. I'm like, oh, this is Hulk Ultimate Destruction.
Yeah.
Like this is totally Hulk Ultimate Destruction. Now I love Hulk Ultimate Destruction, so that's like one of my favorite games of all time. So the idea of the idea of them making like a Hulk game, um, I mean them making essentially a Hulk game without the license, I thought was kind of cool. It's kind of sad that you're playing essentially the villain in that game. In both games, you're essentially the villain. Where's my daughter? It's like, bruh, you're a fucking monster. You're murdering people. But then again, in the Incredible Hulk, I mean, in Hulk Ultimate Destruction, you're essentially the villain. That's one of my favorite games. Speaking of mutation, because you're technically a mutant in that game, grabbing a soldier and running up the side of the building and hear him saying, "Oh my god! Oh god!" and punching him multiple times when he's still wiggling and shit. Ah! And then throwing him and hearing
Yeah.
him. It's like, ah! That game is. I have my video game system in my basement is hooked up to my surround sound, which is Dolby 7.2. So I want to upgrade it to 9.1, but I don't have the money for it right now. But if you
Yeah.
play that game with a Dolby surround sound, when you throw a guy, it sounds like he's behind you going, ah! it's like that guy's dead. I threw him off the top of a skyscraper. He's dead. I punched him as the Hulk 15 times in the face. Repeatedly. He's dead. I don't know why he's still moving, but he's dead.
Yeah.
Terrible thing to do, also really fun. But I mean, mutation's kind of cool. It's
Yeah.
not really done well in a lot of games.
Like
It's no, go
I
ahead.
think the I think the like the I think my problem with, let's say, a lot of, for example, as much as I like Dragon Ball Fighter Z, and as much as at least the first few Storm games are a guilty pleasure, my biggest problem is the fact that, the various transformations take up character slots.
Oh, so
I don't know
instead of
why they
having a
pick.
new character, they just like having Goku just he can transform into different forms. It's like, well, here's Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Here's Super Saiyan 4 Goku. Here's Super Saiyan
Yeah,
Blue Goku. Here's Super Saiyan LT. It's like, look, that's not that's not a new character. His moves are
yeah.
functionally the same, motherfucker.
Exactly, exactly. It would have been, and there's mods for Dragon Ball Fighter Z where they actually do have them transform, but I really wish that would have been an option out of the box.
Yeah, they should do what Smash Brothers used to do, which is basically the costumes were just like costumes for characters were just different costumes. It wasn't a new character.
Yeah,
That would have made more sense. Like you press X and he just turns into a different style of that character. So you could have like it's like okay, here's Go. Unless a character has a substantially different move set if they have a transformation. Like now that they've added Orange Piccolo's abilities are slightly different than what he would do as his normal form. Or Beast Gohan
yeah,
now has a special beam cannon.
yeah,
It's like, oh shit, okay, well fine, okay, this could be a new character, but it's just because we can't be bothered to actually come up with interesting, these are assembly line games.
yeah, yeah. Essentially, that's the problem. And I mean, like of Dragon Ball Fighter Z, it had the out of a lot of these anime fighting games, I feel it had the most effort put in it.
Yeah, but that was made by
But
Arc System Works.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, have you ever played an Arc System Works games that didn't have effort put into it?
No, all of them have been pretty good.
Yeah, so it's like, that's kind of like,
Uh,
Anyway,
yeah.
let's keep it moving. The third one that seems like it's going to be amazing, but isn't. Being a giant monster. The dream, you'll get to stomp your way around as a Godzilla-sized monster, or perhaps Godzilla himself. Whether it's just a short sequence in a larger adventure, or the whole game is dedicated to kaiju chaos, what could be a better power fantasy than getting to tower over everyone else and wield unimaginable strength? Even better if you get to smash a whole city to bits. The reality, your enormous character will feel slow and clunky to control, and the game will struggle to find anything interesting, to find interesting things for you to do. Particularly if this is a temporary jaunt in the game where you're otherwise normal size. The section will probably consist mostly of just hitting buttons to watch canned animations play out and quickly wear out its welcome. If you get to fight something at equal stature, it'll feel like two action figures bashing against each other. You see Godzilla and think it'd be amazing to play something like that, but wouldn't the fantasy is simply flawed? Here, uh, in games, we want our characters to feel responsive, and for the most part, agile and quick heroes are the most satisfying to control. For a monster to feel enormous and powerful, they need to be slow and ponderous, and that's such a difficult thing to make fun. Even if you find a way out of that puzzle, what do you then have the player do? Creating meaningful objectives at that scale is really difficult. There's so many times you can have blundering fights against other big monsters. Battling things smaller than you is irritating, and even smashing buildings gets boring when you realize all you're doing is making the world progressively flatter. Honorable exception. Now, here's what I was about to say is honorable before they even said it, but they have it out there. Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, which pitched various classic monsters in head-to-head bouts, but that's just probably nostalgia talking. I'm not sure I've seen this trope done well in more recent times, and certainly last year's King Kong game did nothing to shake off the curse. If you got any recommendations, let me go. Yeah, all those Godzilla games were pretty good, except for the one that came to the Wii that was like motion controls. But like the two that came to the GameCube and the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox, they were amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's like, hey, man, you want to see you want a modern retelling of King of the Monsters? Destroy All Monsters Melee. Except you get the
Yeah.
original King of Monsters destroying shit. It's like, fuck your city.
And that, and then I was also put robots in there, like games where you get
A mech.
the mech isn't obviously the main focus,
Yeah,
where you actually have to control the robot. It's like,
yeah.
oh, these tanky controls, I hate
The mech,
it.
the only time being in a mech works in a video game is if the mech is so exceedingly powerful and it's so much fun to just basically destroy shit and wreck dudes' shit that it's like you look forward to those moments in the game where you get to use that mech. But there's not a lot of games that do that well, you know what I mean?
Yeah, what was that flying mech game for the PlayStation? That was
Armored
pretty
Core,
fun. No, it's a different one.
uh
Um, something boots, I
no,
think.
no, I know what you're talking about. It was made by Hideo Kojima. He was the
No, not
director
that
on
one.
it. It was shit. Ah, God. Now I got to look it up because I really mech game. Let me Google it. Mech game made by Hideo Kojima. Mech game made by Kojima. No, was it Metal Gear? Zone of the Enders.
I mean, yeah, that one does look good, but I'm thinking of something else. Gunmetal, Robot Pit. No, that's not it. Um, two. Hmm, see, this is it. See, mission.
Anyway, while you look that up, I'm going to go to the next one.
All right.
Multiple endings. Multiple endings. This is a big one. Over the course of your adventure, you'll get to make all sorts of different choices and moral decisions. And at the end of it all, they'll pay off in a satisfying custom ending. One of many possible finales that accurately reflects the consequences of your action and how you personally change the in-game world. The reality, there's a few different ways this can go. Sometimes the ending will be a slideshow or montage cutscene that just slots in different shots and narration to show your choices. Sometimes there'll be essentially 3 or 4 possible endings with slight variations based on a handful of things you did. Often the ending will just be decided by one specific choice made right before it, disregarding most or all of your previous actions, essentially just pressing a button to choose a cutscene. Infamously done with literal in-game buttons in Deus Ex Human Revolution, for example. Even if the ending you get does feel satisfying and fitting for your character, chances are it's only a different cutscene that separates yours from anyone else's. It's rare for your choices to actually meaningfully affect how the game's finale plays out, beyond perhaps a bit of diverging dialogue. You're fighting the final boss and making the final choice either way. It's just a question of what movie you get to watch afterwards. Particularly in recent titles, following that cutscene, you'll often just get dumped back in the world. Well, the status quo doesn't seem to have changed at all either way. And then when the sequel comes out, you'll find out your ending wasn't even the canon one. The explanation: making one satisfying ending is hard enough, let alone multiple. And that problem only gets exponentially harder when you try to include the player's choices beyond just good and evil. Creating genuinely divergent, valuable finales is a tall order. The data shows that most players won't finish your game anyway, so it's not a good use of limited time and money. But even if it's just a cutscene, good cutscenes aren't cheap or easy aren't cheap or easy either. And making more than a handful of genuinely different ones is a big task too. The more seemingly important choices you get to make along the way, the more you expect these choices to ultimately pay off. But that creates more and more possible combinations until it becomes untenable to have a custom ending for everyone, unless it's something like a simple slideshow where all your consequences can simply be automatically slotted in. Mass Effect 3 is the example of how badly this can go wrong. Across 3 games, we adventured through the galaxy with the implicit promise that all of our choices and actions would pay off. By the time we got to the final ending of it all, there were so many different variations between people's playthroughs that there couldn't possibly be a way to satisfyingly resolve it all for everyone. BioWare struggled under the weight of the problem, ultimately just giving us the choice of 3 different colors of the same cutscene, a decision so poorly received that they had to go back retroactively and change it. We talked about that earlier.
What game is this again?
Mass Effect 3.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they literally just gave you 3 different colors of the cutscene. Like you could choose blue, red, or green. Like red was you destroy the Mass Effect relays, blue was you side with the Reapers, and green was it was synthesis, some shit like that. It was like this is because like I played it. I did the red ending and I was like I'm never playing this again, and I have never played Mass Effect 3 ever again. I'm like fuck this game. They're like, well, they
Yeah.
changed the ending. They made it better. Nah, they didn't. They
Too
didn't
late.
really.
Oh, I thought it was like it's too late.
Yeah, it's too late. When you fuck up like that, there's no coming back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's far too late.
Like if you have to go back and fix your game's ending, the game was not in good shape in the first place. Because a good game, like Obsidian, didn't have to go back and fix Fallout New Vegas' ending. Bethesda had to go back and fix Fallout 3's ending. Think about that.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Honorable exception: Baldur's Gate 3.
Baldur's
Uh,
Gate 3.
yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 has your choices really do matter, but Larian's been in the game. Larian's been making RPGs not as long as Obsidian or BioWare, but for a long ass time. So they know how to make RPGs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you find that game that had all that extra content that you were looking for?
Um. Yeah. It's called Omega Boost.
Huh. Was it on the PlayStation or
It
PS4?
it was on the PlayStation.
I'm gonna look that up. Omega Boost PS1. It's also on computer. Yeah, this looks
It looks old.
This is
Right?
definitely the PS. This is definitely PS1 era.
Yeah,
But
there are games out
apparently,
there.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I said apparently this game is really liked by mech game fans.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I remember being. I remember being fairly fun at the time. It's just. I think this is the game.
All right.
Yeah, yeah. This definitely looks like it. But yeah, it's. I remember it being fun at the time. But it's one of those things. Like, man, I remember this game being so great. And then you look
You go
back,
back
it's
and
like,
play. It's like, eh.
this game looks really old. It's like, there's some games I don't really feel like that. Like, there's some games that, yeah, I know what era it's from. Obviously, it's gonna look like what it's gonna look like, but it feels still feels fun to play. But there are
Yeah.
some games, it's like some games to look at. It's like,
That's the
man, this
product
shit
of
looks
its
old.
time. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
like for me, that era, that PS1 era 3D games, those games, most of them, unless they were hyper stylized, aged like hot buttered shit.
Oh yeah,
They most of them. It's the reason why even now I say a lot of N64 games, despite the N64 having its issues. A lot of N64 games, because a lot of them are stylized, they're not trying to be realistic. Those hold up more than PlayStation games. Like I
yeah.
look at some PlayStation, I'm like,
No, I
what the
agree.
fuck is this shit right here?
Yeah,
People wanted
yeah,
this shit, really?
yeah,
Whereas like I can go back and play Mario 64. I'm like, oh, this is kind of fun. Uh,
yeah,
I
yeah.
play some games. Like I can play. I can pick 10 games on the N64 that are still really fucking enjoyable and playable today. I
Yeah, I mean,
cannot
there's
say the
something
same
in
thing with the PlayStation.
I mean, yeah, there's something endearing about those uh those stylized graphics. Obviously, made in a different time, but there's something endearing about those limitations. Whereas some games, it's like, what the fuck? What the hell happened?
Yeah, yeah. It's like
uh,
this is what people wanted back in the '90s. This shit right here, for real.
yeah,
This
exactly.
is what you wanted for real. Okay, all right, all right. I guess I don't know shit about anything.
Oh yeah, certain games, certain TV shows. It's like, yeah, you would have had to been there to enjoy it, but if you weren't there, nah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's not
Like
gonna work for it.
I'm
Doesn't
gonna
work
keep it
for anyone.
100%. I'm gonna keep it 100%. This is a little tangent before we get to the main thing. I can name 10 games right now for my N64, some of which don't have the best graphics, but I still prefer them over shit on the PlayStation. Mario 64, Donkey Kong 64, Banjo Kazooie, Banjo Tooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Star Fox, Paper Mario, Iden Chronicles, Gauntlet Legends, um, and Mystical Ninja starring Goemon. I'd rather play that than Spyro, Croc, any of the whole Spyro trilogy, Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, Croc is jank as hell.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
Um,
it looks good. Like I'll be honest with you, Croc in terms of graphics is one of the best looking games on the PlayStation. Not saying much,
yeah,
but it still looks good. But those tank
yeah.
controls to jump, it's like,
Oh,
oh, it's so shitty. Oh,
oh, you
Jesus.
can feel it. You can really feel those jumps.
If
I mean,
this
you can really feel those jumps.
if they ported that game to the N64 and it used the analog control stick, it probably would be better, but it did not.
Yeah.
So
I think there was like a ground pound you could do if you like mash the X button. You could also get like a higher jump. That felt like that took like a couple seconds too long when you
yeah,
when you did that. What? Oh, okay.
yeah, it's like I look. Listen, I like I like what because it was made by Argonaut, and Argonaut's always been good. Like these are the
Yeah.
people who made the original Star Fox. I have no complaints about Argonaut, but holy shit, uh, is Croc really hard. That game is hard to. Oh man, those tank controls. Um,
Yeah, it's hard for the wrong reasons. That's it's like there are games that are hard, and then there are games that are just this is this is this is hard for no reason. This is just cheap.
yeah, yeah. Well, not cheap. It was the limitations of the hardware at the time. Because remember,
Yeah,
Croc came out before Sony stole the analog control sticks for their DualShock.
yeah,
Remember, they had the
yeah.
old controller. It was just an SNES controller.
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's true.
they had to do the best of what they had. It's like, yo, look, man, don't be getting mad about that shit. They had to do the best they could. Um, anyway, what was I about to say? So yeah, man, the PlayStation was just like, like there's been times like the PS2. I can understand why the PS2 sold well. The PlayStation, I'm like, it was the marketing because it can't be because of the games because a lot of those games were shit. Um, Anyway, that's enough about that. Let's keep it moving. The last one is A Million Planets. The Dream. The game will feature an entire galaxy to explore. You'll be able to go to 1,000 different planets, or a million, or 18 quintillion, and experience your own unique adventure. With a near endless amount of content, you'll be able to keep enjoying fresh new stories in space forever, doing everything from hunting pirates to discovering new alien species to trading in valuable finds. The reality, whether it's in Starfield's relatively restrained galaxy or No Man's Sky's near infinite one, the problem is the same. Inevitably, the majority of planets will feel empty or repetitive or both. Each planet won't be its own exciting discovery. Instead, most will simply feel interchangeable, and you'll struggle to remember the most of the ones you visit. Although you will be free to go anywhere, what you can do there will always be limited, and a lack of true reactivity to the galaxy will make your actions feel hollow. Because there's always another planet, and most feel generated rather than crafted. Each will become disposable in your eyes, unless you make the effort to keep returning to one spot and make it a home. A choice the game will struggle to reward. In the end, though the act of traveling and whatever you're doing on the planets may be fun, eventually you'll get tired of the game long before seeing everything its galaxy has to offer. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the explanation is that it's procedural generation just can only use so much, and everything feels mass produced. There's a longer explanation, but that's basically what it is. That's the gist of it. Honorable mention:
Yeah.
No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky, from what I keep seeing, when I see that game, it looks like it gets. It looks like they put more and more into it.
Oh
Even
yeah,
looks better.
oh yeah,
It even looks better when it first launched.
yeah. No Man's Sky.
Graphically.
Uh, no Man's Sky gets really good, but you have to put in order to get to the really good to the actual storyline of what's going on in that game, you have to put 30 hours in. You have to beat it once, make it to the center of the galaxy, go into the wormhole to go to a new galaxy, in order to basically start the real storyline of the game.
Yeah.
So you know,
That sounds like a. I mean, I guess there. Yeah, I guess It's 30 hours still. I mean, for a game that's hundreds of hours long, I guess 30 hours isn't terrible. Like I've heard people say, no, you gotta wait 45 hours for the game to start. It's like, what? uh,
yeah.
it's
Look,
still it, but it's a resource gathering base building game. So
yeah. I mean, but you can build bases in No Man's Sky now. Like No Man's Sky is like a better version of Starfield at this point.
yeah,
That's basically what it is. Just as repetitive, just as like cookie cutter shit being being done. Except shit you can do in No Man's Sky, you can actually build your own capital ship and like have like a star station, a space station, and like recruit like people to man it and all that type of shit. Can't do that in Starfield. Because Starfield is just some bullshit.
yeah, yeah. Like I'm looking at it right now, and it's like, you know, the environments and stuff look more creative. They look more, because the environments just seem like I mean, they changed a little bit, but they didn't have they weren't as intricate looking as they are now.
Yeah, I mean, but I got No Man's Sky when it first came out. That game was jank as fuck when it first came out. I mean, it was janky.
Yeah, but I mean, to even for some of the stuff that they were, what's his name was saying, and
Sean
he got
Murray.
destroyed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they eventually added it though. You now have
yeah,
multiplayer in the game. You have. It took a while, but they did add it eventually. Um,
yeah, yeah. I mean, they still they even though they were getting destroyed by the media and by critics and
yeah,
absolutely just
but
they supported the game.
but here's the thing. You know what they did after Sean Murray. Sean Murray shut the fuck up. He sat in the corner and he started making. They started working on the game.
Yeah, they didn't give up on the project, which I'm surprised. As much as I'll probably eventually get it. That game price hardly ever goes down.
What Starfield?
No, No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky. Yeah, and
Uh,
sometimes it goes on sale. Sometimes.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, that game doesn't get it nearly as much credit as it should for for where it came from to where it is now.
Oh yeah, yeah. That game really did come back. It really was a. I give props to to Hello Games for bringing that shit back because most people would have been like, man, fuck this shit. But they
Yeah,
sat down and they grinded that shit out and they made other games on top of that. Um, I got it on PC because I'm not spending all that fucking money on it, but they did it.
yeah.
So good for them. Anyway, um, that's the end of the cast. We only have one section left, which we'll get over quickly. Unpopular opinion, aka hot take.
Um, wanna go first?
Sure, sure. My unpopular opinion is this. It's gonna make some people angry, but I don't care. Uh, my unpopular opinion is that I don't think every game. I don't think every game that comes. I don't think people need to get everything that comes out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Stop being people like, oh my god, I have to get this right now. It's so amazing. It's like, dude, we don't know. Why can't people be more skeptical?
The time is.
Cause I'm a
yeah,
skeptical ass motherfucker.
yeah,
I'm always very skeptical about video games. I'm like, I don't know if this is gonna be good or not. I'm gonna wait.
yeah. I think
You think
uh,
what?
I think that's why we're in the mess we're in right now, or why the industry's in the mess it is, because people just bought games out of a whim. You know,
Yeah,
um, I also think a lot of these review sites probably
we're paid to hype up
accommodate
these games.
were paid to hype up these games and felt pressure to give these games 10 out of 10 games that did not deserve high praise because of the fanfare that the game was getting, and they didn't want to lose viewers if they decided to shit all over certain games. So
Yeah, 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 yeah. Just like that IGN guy who's like, I'm not giving this game is a piece of shit. I'm not giving it a high score, and they like, well, your ass is fired.
yeah,
It's like, what? Yep, get your ass out of here. But that's the world we live in, folks. That's the world we live in. Anyway, that's the end of the cast. Thank you for joining us. Oh, sorry, you didn't give your unpopular opinion.
my unpopular opinion is that the Suicide Squad should have been a should have been a Teen Titans game
Yeah,
where the Justice League for whatever reason was turned evil by some sort of unknowing threat,
yeah,
and then you had Amanda Wallace or whatever her name is,
Amanda Waller.
uh, Amanda Waller,
Yeah,
contract the Teen Titans to take down the Justice League, but the Teen Titans would much rather figure out
how to save them.
what is
Yeah,
save them,
yeah.
and you have that conflict there,
You know what
and
this?
then ultimately the Justice League and the Teen Titans come together to take down the threat, the very thing that was turning them evil.
Yeah, yeah. That would have been great. You know what the sad thing is? Kevin Conroy. This is his last voiceover. This man died. The definitive version of Batman, because Christian Bale, Michael Keaton, they're great. Yeah, yeah. Adam West is great. But Batman to me will always be Kevin Conroy, and his last voice acting role as this character in a video game is this piece of shit.
Yeah, yeah, that's sad.
That's sad. That's fucking sad. Um,
Yeah,
where Batman gets murdered by fucking a bunch of fucking villains.
yeah,
The superheroes of Earth who've been taken over by Brainiac get murdered by the piece of shit people who've done way worse shit than any of these people ever did. Fuck you.
yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Don't get me started on make me mad.
yeah.
But anyway, that's my opinion. Do you have anything else you would like to add before we wrap things up, sir?
No, I'm good.
All right, that's the end of the cast. Rate, comment, share, subscribe. Thank you for joining us. Uh, this channel grows thanks to you guys. So let's keep it going. This is Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor BS Busters. Once again, thank you. If you would like to stay in touch with the channel, you can join my Discord, which there's a link in the description. You can also reach me at mrredfoxbsbuster@gmail.com. That's the end of the cast. Peace, good night, and play your games.